Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. Israel says it has received through the Red Cross the remains of a hostage that Hamas claims to belong to Officer Hadar Goldin, killed in the 2014 Gaza war. Officials say forensic experts will verify the identity after transfer from Gaza. Hamas fighters trapped in the Israeli-held Rafah say they will not surrender, calling on mediators to resolve the stalemate. The group warns that failure to reach a deal could threaten the month-old ceasefire and spark new violence. And the US government shutdown has reached into its 40th day as senators struggle to reach a deal on to reopen the federal services. Flight disruptions, unpaid workers and food aid cuts continue as parties clash over healthcare subsidies. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara is set to become the first Syrian leader to visit the White House since 1946. The former rebel commander, once detained by US forces, will meet President Donald Trump on Monday as Syria moves to join the anti-ISIS coalition. At least 2 people have died as super typhoon Feng Wong slams into central and eastern Philippines, cutting power across the Bicol region. Over 1 million people have been evacuated ahead of its expected landfall in Aurora province. A powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck off Japan's Iwate coast on Sunday, prompting a brief tsunami advisory. Waves up to 20 centimeters were recorded, but authorities reported no major damage or nuclear incidents before lifting the warning. A 26-year-old Palestinian man has been shot dead during an Israeli army raid on the Rafah refugee camp near Tubas. Palestinian officials say Abdul Rahman Dara Wasa died from gunshot wounds after troops opened fire on Saturday night. The Gujarat anti-terrorism squad has arrested 3 ISIS suspects accused of planning attacks in Indian cities. Investigators say the men were radicalized online and targeting public locations. Now we have big news coming out of the Middle East this hour, and Israel says they have received the remains of hostage which Hamas have claimed belongs to an Israeli officer killed in the war of 2014 between Israeli and Hamas forces. The Israeli military said on Sunday that the Red Cross handed over the remains of a hostage which Hamas had earlier announced belonged to Officer Hadar Goldin. Goldin was killed in the final days of the 2014 war between Israel and Hamas, and his body has been held in Gaza since then. Israeli forensic experts are expected to determine the identity of the remains once they are brought into Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the identification process will begin immediately. Let's take a listen into his statements.
שהוא מחזיק בגופתו של סגן הדר גולדין, זיכרונו לברכה. אנחנו אמורים לקבל את הגופה היום אחר הצהריים. זה כמובן יתחיל מיד בזיהוי, וידוי הזהות שלו. סגן הדר גולדין נפל בקרב גבורה במבצע צוק איתן לפני 11 שנים. גופתו נחטפה על ידי החמאס, שסירב להחזירו. בכל התקופה הזאת עשינו מאמץ גדול בממשלות ישראל להחזיר, כמובן תוך כדי ייסורים קשים של משפחתו שעכשיו תזכה להחזירו לקבר ישראל. אנחנו אמרנו בתחילת המלחמה שאנחנו נחזיר את כל החטופים.
We're now joined by Mati Zaweg. He's a geopolitical expert and he joins us live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Mati, thank you very much for joining us as always. Do you believe this signals genuine progress in the hostage exchange process? Of course, the remains of the officer have not yet been identified. Is this largely symbolic, given the fact that fighting is continuing, particularly, of course, in that Rafah stalemate?
Well, thank you, Thomas, for having me. Things have been progressed, but they haven't progressed in a bad way. I mean, they should have progressed 2 weeks ago or more, and Hamas were delaying all the time, giving the remaining corpses of the deceased soldiers that they were not already alive, and they were doing like drops and drops, one here, two there, and they say they don't know what they are, where they are, and all kinds of excuses to try to continue their grip, their power in the different areas in Gaza, and using this as an excuse. Now, finally, they have, they gave most of the corpses, still remain 4, I think, after they gave today Adar Goldin. Adar Goldin is a special soldier. He fall down on duty together with another soldier called Oron Shaul. He was recovered by the Israeli army last year, and now this one has been given now to the authorities, finishing the suffering of their family after 11 years.
Yes.
And that's what it is. Now they still have another 4. They are continue playing with the data of if they know where they are, if they don't know where they are. Israel think they know, most of them, exactly where they are.
Yes, and Matti, of course, this comes amid heightened criticism of the Netanyahu government's handling of the hostage crisis, the ceasefire deal. Do you see this announcement as an attempt by the administration to show progress while being under pressure?
Well, yes, because Israel is under pressure of the international community and also Donald Trump to put a blind eye to all kind of breaching of the agreements from the side of Hamas. And this is quite unacceptable if they are trying to attack you or killing you or breaching the agreement, which is the redeployment of Israel to the a yellow line, and to must start the second phase that they 3 weeks ago, and that is going to start maybe in 1 or 2 weeks if they are going to give back all the corpses that they still have. And this means for Hamas the beginning of the end if the international community is going to really enforce what they signed.
Yes, Matti, thank you very much for giving us your insight on those crucial updates coming out of the region. But next we move over to Europe for the other ongoing war which is going on, and Ukraine is scrambling to restore power and heating after a series of Russian drone attacks on its energy infrastructure. Moscow launched hundreds of drones overnight into Saturday, targeting key energy facilities, including power plants operated by Centrenbergo. As a result, large parts of Ukraine, including Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk, are facing power cuts of up to 16 hours a day. Ukrainian Energy Minister Svetlana Grunchuk has called it one of the most difficult nights since the invasion began in 2022. Meanwhile, Ukrainian strikes on Russia's infrastructure have left over 20,000 people without power in regions near the border. The Russian attacks also targeted 2 nuclear power substations in western Ukraine, raising concerns about nuclear safety. Kiev has called on the International Atomic Agency to respond urgently to the threat. Despite downing 406 drones and 9 missiles, experts warn that the ongoing strikes could lead to heating shortages as winter approaches. Joining us once again is Matti Zaweg to discuss this. Matti, Ukraine's energy grid has suffered what Kiev calls one of its most difficult nights since the invasion started in 2022, with power cuts of up to 16 hours a day in some regions. Is this the start of another Russian winter offensive aimed at breaking Ukrainian resilience through energy loss?
Well, you know, you already don't have enough words to describe things because they say one of the worst. There have been many days that they have been the worst. And some of them, they were deadly like this one because the soldiers were in circle in one area from the Donetsk area that they couldn't go out, and probably they were killed by hundreds. And they also are in shortage of electricity because they are targeting from the Russian side all electric supplies, etc. But this strange war has been giving a very special outcome until now. In the last year, Russians are going further, conquering more and more territories, another crossroad and another village and another important valley and so on. And from the other side, the Ukrainians are really making painful bombardments of refineries, factories, warehouses for weapons and everything. Just in this last week, they bombed the area of Bashkortostan and also the area of Nizhny Novgorod, and they caused a lot of damages, creating a situation in which even fuel supply or solar supplies and other things is getting worse and worse for the Russian side too. So they are doing painful things to each other. They are killing each other by thousands, and until now, nobody looks that it's going to be a ceasefire unless it's going to be really a lot of pressure also from Europe and the United States.
Yes, Matty, do stay with us as we have further updates coming out of that conflict. Now, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, the Ukrainian armed forces have lost approximately 1,330 troops in what Russia calls the Special Military Operation Zone in the past 24 hours. The casualties were spread across various zones, with the highest losses reported in the responsibility areas of Russia's Battle Group Center and the Battle Group West. Specifically, losses include over 160 troops in North, up to 220 in West, 130 in South, 470 in Center, and up to 255 in the East, and at least 95 troops in the battleground Dnipro. Of course, Matty joins us once again to discuss this. Matty, of course, in regards to troop losses, some reports are saying over 1 million people have died during this conflict over the course of the past 3 years. And now 1,330 people reported by the Russian Defense Ministry in merely the past 24 hours. What does this say about the scale of the sheer human loss during the 3-year conduct of this brutal war?
Well, it has been, I think these numbers are outrageous. I mean, they are the biggest numbers since the Second World War, because if you think about it, the Russians talk that they were killing more than 600,000 or 700,000 of Ukrainians. The Ukrainians, they have official counting of about 860,000. And they also are talking about not only losing 1,300 and something soldiers in one day, they are saying that's what they caused the losses in the Russian side. So you don't really know, but even if both sides are not saying the truth by 50%, that's terrible. It's a terrible number of men and women and children, especially men, of course, that they are in the battlefield, but those numbers are not going to give them anything more than one more village here and one more village there. It's really a waste of time and money. As Trump said, they are having battles in a plain place with no mountains, and they're just killing each other like ducks.
Yes, thank you very much, Matty Zaweg, for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you, as always. We now move to our next story, which is in the United Kingdom, and Britain is sending defence experts and equipment to Belgium to help counter a surge in disruptive drone sightings that have temporarily shut down airports in the country. The head of Britain's armed forces, Richard Knighton, confirmed the deployment was made at Belgium's request, though he did not specify what kind of equipment or how many personnel were being sent. Drone activity has been reported over airports and military bases in Belgium over the past week, forcing flight diversions and temporary closures in Brussels and Liège. Similar incidents were also reported in Sweden and other European countries. Knighton says it remains unclear who is behind the disruptions, but noted that Russia has previously engaged in hybrid warfare tactics. Moscow has denied any involvement. Belgium's government held an emergency meeting after the incidents as investigations continue. Okay, now joining us is Keith Vaz. Okay, he is joining us in just a second. Of course, this comes as a flurry of drones have been disrupting these Belgian airports, with now the UK sending equipment to Belgium to help counter this surge in disruptive drone activity that have shut many flights and airports down across the country. The head of Britain's armed forces, Richard Knighton, has confirmed the deployment of said equipment, but did not specify on the equipment that he was sending. Of course, similar incidents have also been reported in other European countries such as Sweden, Estonia and others. Of course, Moscow has denied any involvement in the drone activity which have been cited around these Belgian airports. Of course, there have been multiple incidents of this and across Europe as drone activity becomes more frequent, causing flights to shut down and airports to close due to their presence. Of course, Belgium's government has held an emergency meeting after the incident, and investigations continue. This, of course, follows temporary closures in huge airports in Belgium, such as Brussels and Liège, where similar incidents, of course, have been reported in previous countries. And the UK has sent this equipment over to Brussels, where the UK is aiding the Belgians. Of course, now joining us is Keith Vaz. He's a former UK minister, and he joins us live from Goa in India. Keith, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. Britain is sending defence experts and equipment to Belgium to tackle these drone disruptions. How serious is this situation? Are we looking at coordinated hybrid attacks or isolated sabotage incidents? Of course, Moscow has categorically denied its involvement in these drone incursions. What are your thoughts in what's going on?
Good evening, Thomas. I've now moved from Goa to Mumbai, so I'm coming closer and closer to New Delhi, where we can finally meet. Look, this is the most bizarre story, that drones, electronic equipment of this kind, which people normally associate, on the one hand, with attacks, physical attacks where people are killed as a result of drones, or people surveying the countryside or a city or a town, and then using that information for intelligence gathering. This kind of disruption, I don't think we've ever heard of before happening in Western Europe, and therefore it's right that the Belgians should be calling for help and support in trying to find out precisely what is happening. And whether it's reliance on the UK or other NATO partners, I think it's something they'll want to resolve as quickly as possible, because as you've said, it has disrupted routine air traffic going over Brussels and Belgium, which is a very important country as far as the EU is concerned, because it houses the capital of the EU. So why are these drones there? Who are sending them? And what is the purpose of them? There's no indication, Thomas, that any of these have been shot down, as far as I'm aware. But of course, that's one way of ensuring that you will know exactly who's sending them. But I think the Belgians will try and make sure that no one is hurt as a result of what they're doing.
Keith, does Britain have any obligations to protect Belgium in that way? Of course, the General Richard Knighton said the move came at Belgium's request. What's the whole process of that? And as we know, of course, Britain is no longer in the European Union. And so why have Britain sent this? Why has Britain sent this aid to Brussels?
Well, the first thing is I don't think it's an EU issue because it's not to do with economic cooperation. This is more to do with NATO. Look, if I was sitting there, or you, Thomas, was the Prime Minister of Belgium, you'd think, drones coming over us, everything's being disrupted. Should we ask the Americans? I don't think so. Let's kind of ask a country that we know is got good, sophisticated equipment. As you know, Britain has a particular interest in strategic defence, which Britain has, and is not going to use the information against us. And I'm not sure that at the moment the stability of other NATO allies will allow them to ask anyone else. So I don't think there's anything in the choice of Britain other than they want to make sure that Britain is, giving us the information, giving the Belgians the information. And I think that that's probably why they've asked. No other reason. I mean, they've not asked any other EU country. They've not asked any other NATO country. The only country with the ability to do anything about this would be the French. They would have the sophistication, all the Germans. And the Belgians have decided, let's ask Britain. Yeah. I don't think Britain has offered because, had they done so, that would be made very clear. They have definitely been asked.
Yes. Keith, Vaz, thank you very much, and hope you enjoy your time in Mumbai. Thank you very much for joining us. We now move on and we stay in the UK next. And Britain, King Charles led the proceedings at the Cenotaph on Sunday for the Remembrance Sunday service, with 2 minutes of silence observed at 11 o'clock. Queen Camilla, Princess Kate, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, Prince Edward and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also participated in the ceremony. Notably absent, however, was Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known, of course, as Prince Andrew, before his royal titles were stripped. Remembrance Day, first celebrated on November the 11th of 1919, originally called Armistice Day, marked the end of fighting in World War I. Today, the holiday honours all those who served and died in all of the conflicts and wars that Britain has fought. Okay, we now move once again to West Asia, and Iraq has begun a special voting process in Baghdad ahead of its parliamentary elections on November the 11th. Over 1.3 million military personnel are voting at 809 polling centres with 4,501 stations nationwide. The early vote also includes 26,500 internally displaced citizens. The process allows security forces who will guard polling stations on election day to exercise their constitutional right to vote. Iraq's Interior Minister reported that voting is proceeding smoothly at fully secured centres. A total of 7,768 candidates are competing for 329 parliamentary seats in Iraq, and around 21 million Iraqis are eligible to vote. Iraq's government positions are traditionally divided by sect, with the presidency for Kurds, the Prime Minister for Shias, and the parliamentary speaker for Sunnis. Let's take a listen in to the spokesperson for the Electoral Commission and a member of the security forces.
مفوضية الانتخابات اليوم افتتحت 809 مركز اقتراع بواقع 4501 محطة اقتراع للتصويت الخاص العسكريين الذين بلغ عددهم أكثر من 1,300,000 ناخب عسكري. افتتحت هذه المحطات لهم الساعة 7 صباحا. أيضا افتتحت محطات للنازحين الذين بلغ عددهم أكثر من 26,000 ناخب نازح. افتتحت لهم 27 مركز اقتراع بواقع 97 محطة اقتراع. ناخبين في التصويت الخاص من العسكريين والنازحين يصوتون للتحالفات والأحزاب التحالفات البالغ عددها 31 تحالف و38 حزب، إضافة إلى أنه أعداد المرشحين هم أكثر من 7700 مرشح اليوم يصوتون لهم المشاركين.
يعني ديمقراطية تنتخب بالصورة الصحيحة وماكو أي ضغوطات مثل ما تشوف أنتم إعلاميين وشفتوا ماكو أي ضغوطات طوب وتنتخب بالصورة الصحيحة وتنتخب اللي أنت تريده، وإحنا نأمل الأفضل والأحسن إن شاء الله. إحنا كل ما تجينا إن شاء الله وجوه جديدة إن شاء الله للبرلمان تدخل شوف إحنا قوات الأمن الداخلية، شوف حقوقنا، شوف شغلاتنا، وثاني شيء إحنا نأمل قوات البرلمان الجديدة إن شاء الله بها الخير، نأمل إن شاء الله بها الخير.
Well, that's all that we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more updates from around the globe. Thank you.